it's just that this that's happening between us is real life. This is what parents and children never do. They
Mm.
don't sit around and talk about these moments that are real, that are coming
Mm-hmm.
to all of us. I mean, you don't sit around and discuss it and talk about it, and why do we not do that? Yeah, it's sad, but it's a reality. It's a certainty. It's a reality.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard for people to engage in this kind of conversation?
You know,
The Go ahead.
I think it's I think it's cultural. I think partly cultural because I think there have been cultures and probably are cultures on the planet today where it is a little more common for
Yeah.
the different generations to communicate with each other about these kinds of things. But in particular in the West, or it's fast-paced lives that we live, and heck, it took a freaking global pandemic, shutdown for me to start
Right.
this channel and start doing it. I mean, um, but actually, you teased that what I wanted this segment to be about because for you watching, hello and welcome to Miracle Mom and Michael. We kind of tagged off that last segment. The previous segment, this is, I guess, maybe part two of Mom's final words or Mom's last words, whatever I'm going to call. I think Mom's last words will be what that previous segment is called. This, I got choked up. It was real, and then Mom wanted to continue reflecting, and I said yes, let's do it. Let's move into this next segment. But it's a natural transition to what I wanted to talk about in this segment anyway. You kind of hinted at it or said it already, but I think this segment's going to be called "We All Die." True or false? Right? T or F. We all die. T or F.
Oh, you want me to answer that?
Well, I mean, you kind of already did, but
Well, of course, these bodies die. Yes.
so far, one per customer. It is appointed. Okay, so this is a Bible chat segment. That's kind of why I wanted to talk
Oh,
about this
okay.
topic. So Hebrews. Oh, I used to know that chapter and verse. Hebrews something 27. It is appointed unto man once to die, and then
Oh,
and
okay.
then to face judgment. I don't remember exactly. I know it's in Hebrews. I can't remember the chapter and verse, but it is appointed unto man once to die, and then to face judgment. But that doesn't say everyone dies. It just says you die and then you face judgment.
Right. I mean, how can you face judgment if you're dead? Right? I mean, completely dead.
Well, I mean, we're talking about physical death, obviously, because the Bible,
Yeah,
there are
right.
other
Yeah.
deaths. There's spiritual death. Okay, so there's basically two deaths. There's physical death and spiritual death, and then there's physical life and spiritual life. Uh, Being born again, like Nicodemus said, how can a man go back into his mother's body and be born again? And Jesus is like, yeah, you don't get it. It's a picture of what happens in the spirit, and so but that verse, it is appointed unto man once to die, is not talking about spiritual death. It's talking about physical death,
Right.
right? So, but that verse isn't saying, I mean, it's used a lot of times in that context. Everyone's going to die. And so far, it seems to be the case, right? We have we have no counter examples. Well, the Bible does actually have a couple of counter examples, doesn't it?
Well, Lazarus.
No, he died
Oh, yeah. Oh, counterexamples of not dying?
of not dying. Even Jesus
Oh,
died,
well,
right?
didn't didn't did Moses die?
Moses did, but there's another guy from back then who according
None.
to according to what the scripture says, it doesn't seem like he died.
He was carried into heaven. You're not talking about Jesus. You're talking about, it's one of the prophets.
Yeah.
Oh, was it, don't give me the answer. Was it, okay.
There might be two. I don't remember.
Is it one of the two witnesses?
No, we're talking the Old Testament.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about. Two witnesses from the two prophets from the Old Testament that are coming back. Didn't one of them? All right. What's the answer?
It begins with an E, and I'm pretty bad about
Elijah?
this. Right. There was two guys, Elijah and Elisha, and one of them was basically the student of the other. And so I think Elijah was the first, and then his student was Elisha. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But if those better Bible scholars out there will correct me, but it was Elijah. Elisha, if you recall the story at all, Elisha, was seeing these incredible miracles that his boss or his teacher, basically, Elisha was in the school of the prophets, right? Elijah was like the teacher of the school of the prophets, and Elisha was one of the students, and he was like the acolyte or the personal assistant to Elijah. And Elisha's like, dude, I want what you got. And he's like, man, you and God are like this, and like crazy stuff happens, and I want what you got. I want the mantle. And so Elijah says to Elisha, again, if I have it correct, he's like, you can't have it unless you see me taken into heaven.
Okay.
Right? If you're looking away or if you're not present, too bad, guy. But if you see me taken into heaven, and lo and behold, Elisha is like, I gotta see this. I gotta see this. I want that mantle. I want to be used by God like my boss. I want to be, and so what's the description? When Elisha saw Elijah taken into heaven, in other words, he didn't die and go in the grave. He didn't bury him. He didn't have a service. What happened? If you recall, there's a phrase used. In fact, it's the name of a movie. How was Elijah taken into heaven?
Oh gosh.
I'll give you a hint. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know if you recognize that music. That was awful, but it's a soundtrack to a movie. That's the soundtrack to Chariots of Fire.
Oh, in a chariot?
A chariot of fire, right? Came and took Elijah into heaven. And so there's a guy who didn't die. All right. So when I was saying, so far it's one per customer, we have no examples of anyone not dying. Au contraire, here's a testimony of a guy, an eyewitness, that saw somebody not die, but something happened to him. He went away in some incredible way that the only way he could describe it was this flaming chariot that just pulled him away, just right before my eyes. He didn't die. And I think there's another account somewhere in the Old Testament, as I recall from my earlier studies, that there were two people that didn't die, or arguably were taken. I don't remember what the other one was. But that being aside, so we have one example, but I keep getting back to that one verse from Paul that I should look up, and I never look it up, and I think it's in Corinthians again. Not all will fall asleep.
Yeah.
So there is a
Right.
So that true or false, we all die. If one person doesn't die, What's the answer to the question? True or false? If at least one person doesn't die, what's the answer to the question? We all die.
Well, then it's false.
False, right? That's like counter to what we believe and live our lives. We live our lives, we're all going to die, we're going to die. There's two guarantees in life, death and taxes, but that's not what the Bible teaches. And
Well,
go ahead.
well, we answer it as true. All people die because of the age that we're living in. We didn't live in that age where Elijah didn't die. I mean, my generation, your generation, my parents' generation, we've never known of anybody who just went to heaven in their earthly body.
Well, it was the same for Elisha and Elijah. It's like they had never seen anybody that didn't die. And so it was true then as well. But there's a case. All right, I don't want to belabor this topic. I just wanted to it's kind of a discussion starter, thought provoker for anyone who's listened this long and watched this long to this segment. Let's wrap it up here. I want to move to another topic, Mom.
Okay, sounds good.
So true or false, we all die?
False.
Ha!
Okay. You
All right.
win.
All right.